yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. You know all my struggles.
All right, so first off, I got to ask you, just growing up, who were some of your favorite baseball players?
Oh, for me, Rod Carew was one of the guys that I really watched. You didn't get a chance to watch as many guys either because baseball's on now and then, so your baseball cards. I did end up following a lot of the Reds. It's fairly close to my hometown. They had a lot of lefties in the lineup. Griffey Jr. was one of the guys, or Griffey Sr.,
Yeah.
was one of the guys that I liked. And then I had a chance to play with him. So those are some of my guys.
So I got to ask you this, man. You know, you've been a Yankee lifer, right? I do this question with everybody, and this is on the spot. If you did a Mount Rushmore for the Yankees, you put 4 on the mountaintop. What 4 Yankees would you put on the Mount Rushmore?
Well, the guys that I know, I would probably go because I never really got to see Garrett play or DiMaggio or Ruth or any of those type guys. But guys I got a chance to meet, I'd say Mickey was one of the best guys that you get a chance to talk to and just a guy's guy. Yogi was one of my favorites from the standpoint of how he treated people.
Yes.
Catfish Hunter was another one of the guys. I know he wasn't a Yankee, but for his whole career, but I love Catfish. And I guess the other one, just DiMaggio, you almost got to be like, you got to put him on there just from the standpoint of, again, not seeing him play, but I remember asking Yogi one time, like, who's the best player you ever saw? And he didn't even hesitate. He's like, DiMaggio.
Wow.
And and I did get a chance to meet Joe, and, you know, it was very nice to me.
You know, one thing about, you know, just me growing up watching you play, the one thing, your fundamentals of hitting. I mean, you're career 300 hitter, right? Over 300, actually. Is there any players in baseball that you see now that are like you look and say, man, reminds them of yourself when you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of, like, you know, I'd like to think I was a good hitter and had an understanding of hitting, and a lot of guys over the years that I've loved. One of our guys, Bo Bichette, is a fun guy to watch because he just loves hitting, very confident, uses the whole field, got power, hits for average. He's one of the guys. There's so many good players. Though Seager is another guy I had in L.A. and he came here. It's fun to watch. Always thought he was a great player right away. You could see him in spring training as a kid, and went, man, there's something special about him.
Yeah.
But there's so many good players. I know I'm leaving so many out, guys that I love the way they play. A lot of guys I'm probably leaving out there.
You know, in baseball, like, there's a lot of guys that have, people don't even say their name. Like, you got Griffey, they call him Junior, right?
Right.
You got Reggie Jackson, they call him Mr. October. Donnie Baseball, everybody knows who Donnie Baseball is.
That's kind of cool.
When did that become a thing that, like, you realize, like, hey, people really actually calling me Donnie Baseball? Like, when did you realize, like, hey, man, this may be my actual nickname now, like, or like my persona type deal?
I never thought about it too much. Kirby Puckett's the one guy that kind of kept always baseball. He always talking and chirping, and he'd say baseball, not baseball, you know, and then it just kind of stuck. And then I always looked at it later. I never thought about nicknames, you know, New York, they call you the Hitman or whatever, different teams. But I thought about it later. I'm like, well, I guess if that's not the worst thing you could be called. Probably been called a lot worse.
Oh, no. Well, I doubt that, man. You pretty regarded highly in baseball. Well, I'm happy for that, man. You know, just the managerial side of things. I mean, is it for you being now with the Blue Jays? You know, that's like you're a Yankee lifer from the baseball player side. Is it sort of weird to actually be on the other side and actually see that team now more often than normal?
It's a little different now being with the Blue Jays. I went in there with the Dodgers, and it didn't seem that funny. I'm in a different league, different division. I went in there with the Marlins. We actually clinched there in 2020 in New York, and that wasn't that weird. But going back in with the Blue Jays is a little different just because it's in the same division, and you know you're kind of banging heads all year long and fighting for a playoff spot within that division. So it's definitely a little different with the Blue Jays.
I love it. A few more questions. So I have this question I call walk-up music. You know how all the players now have the cool walk-up music? But let's say we just reverse time. We go back to, you know, Donnie Baseball in this prime. You can pick any artist, dead or alive. The song is called Don Mattingly or Donnie Baseball. Any artist can do that song for you. Who would you want to do that song for you?
I don't know. I get the one guy that used to play a little bit. They started playing, and you didn't have walk-up music at that time. It was some Mellencamp. I was born in a small town. That was good, but I guess if anybody could do it, I'd like the boss to do it. Springsteen. He was a guy that just a hard-working, kind of just loved the way he is with people and stuff. So I'd say Springsteen would be that guy.
So you mentioned Jim Catfish Hunter, right? So I got to ask you this. As a player, who are give me 5 pitchers that you faced that you said, man, maybe gave you the toughest time during your time?
Well, Langston would be one. Matt Young would be another one. Mostly lefties. Randy Johnson at the end was not fun. He was never fun, but at the end I felt like he was almost unhittable when he started getting the slider over and had better command. That was another one. John Candelaria early on, I had trouble figuring out what I want to do with this. How do I hit this guy? Because he was long, he could paint, he was way out on the side, he was hard to pick up. That'd be 4. There's got to be some more lefties in there. Bruce Hurst gave me a lot of problems early. He was no fun. He'd throw that breaking ball. It started it back. You almost had to look behind your head to get a strike from him. I put those guys out there. There's probably a lot more, but I always think the lefties first.
I like that. Last question. So obviously 95 you retired, and I'm sure you've been asked this, but the next year number 2 comes along, Derek Jeter.
Right.
And you missed it just by the little calendar year. If you could go back, would you have played one more year just to actually play with Derek Jeter that year? Or during that time, did you think about actually coming back to play maybe? When you saw how that team was?
Anytime you say you're not coming back, it's always a tough decision. And I did have a chance to play with Derek a little bit, and got I feel like a front row seat to his career from the standpoint of he came to camp right out of high school, watched his growth and how much better he got over 3 or 4 years. And so I did get a chance. I say you never look back from that standpoint. My decisions were based kind of family based. I wanted to, I still loved playing and being around the guys, but my kids were getting older, and I felt like I wasn't part of that. They're part of growing up, and didn't feel like it was fair to them. And so my biggest decision really came family. And when you make a choice like that, I don't think you ever look back and go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, right? These are my boys, and they know their dad. I think if I'd have kept playing, I'm not sure they would have known their dad quite as well.
Man, I think that'd be great just to have Don Mattingly as a dad. Well, you know what? Actually, I did have one last question. So this is a fun one, and this is on the spot as well. So you're first. Non-teammates. If you could build the perfect infield, I need a second baseman, a shortstop, and a third baseman you put out there with you. Who is the third base? Let's start off with third. Who's your third baseman? Non-teammates.
Non-teammates?
Non-teammates.
Probably I would love to have played with Scott Rowland. He's a guy close to my hometown and just a great defender. Loved the way he played.
Wow. Shortstop?
Short's probably, I got to think about short, but I love playing against Cal. I think he was one of the guys that I loved the way he played and went about his business. Second base, Robbie Alomar may have been the best. As far as when he got on first, I feel like we couldn't pick him. He's very calm over there. He's a tough out. He could switch. I mean, he just did so many things. So Robbie would have been the other guy.
That's a nasty line. I like that. Well, I would like to say, man, just on behalf of myself and just people out there, man, we appreciate what you have done for baseball and what you continue to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.